On today's episode of the Bradeaux and Will Show, we're going to be talking about Steven Adams being traded to the Houston Rockets for Victor Oladipo in 3 seconds, along with the report saying that the Rockets, they really like, Mikal Bridges, and they might want to trade him for Jalen Green, the rest of those Brooklyn picks. So we're going to be sharing our thoughts on both of those, so stay tuned for this episode. You're really going to enjoy it.
All right, and welcome back to the episode of the Bradeaux and Will Show. Today we got, a little something special to talk about. The Rockets finally made a trade. We brought in Steven Adams. I got the trade put up on the screen for y'all boys right now. The Memphis Grizzlies are trading Steven Adams to the Houston Rockets for Victor Oladipo and 3 second-round picks, sources tell ESPN. So we're gonna talk about that, and then some news might have came out from the Brooklyn Nets camp about Jalen Green, and maybe that guy is not viewed as much of a central piece as we thought he is. So yeah, we're gonna be diving into that today. But first things first, we got to talk about is the new trade with the new Houston Rocket. Brad, what was your initial reaction to the trade, and what are your thoughts on what we gave up, and then Steven Adams moving forward? What was the whole thoughts on the whole situation?
Yeah, initial thoughts. First thing I'm thinking, the night before, the Rockets getting killed by Jonas Valanciunas. So my thoughts are, damn, this team really needs a backup center. And not even 24 hours later, Rafael Stone gets his backup center. But as we all know, Steven Adams is out for the entire season with a knee injury. He won't be back until next year. Woj said he'll be fully healthy going into next year. He's going to be expiring after this upcoming season. He's making around $12.5 million, I believe. And Stone and them, they wanted or Udoka specifically, he wanted a gritty, tough center, and Steven Adams perfectly embodies that. If he's coming in next season completely healthy, he's going to be a really good backup center for this team. Probably one of the best backup centers in the NBA. One of the best offensive rebounding, probably the best offensive rebounder in the NBA. Averaged 5 last year, a little bit over 5. Really good defensively, and he's also really good. I'm thinking about Amin Thompson right now, the Rockets' future point guard. He's been really good with Russell Westbrook. He's been really good with John Morant, any downhill driving guard. So he could even work well with Jalen Green. But we'll have to see what happens with him, and we're going to talk about the next segment. But I like the Steven Adams trade. They gave up 3 seconds, which is kind of a lot. And as people have mentioned, under the new CBA, second-round picks can be pretty valuable. You can get some good value out of second-round picks. But, we're trading 2024 second-round picks, 2 picks the Houston Rockets don't need. As you know already, we have a lot of young guys, 6 guys in the young core. They don't need to be drafted anybody else with those second-round picks. And they're also trading a 2025 second-round pick. Again, it's a lot of seconds, and you're also getting off of Oladipo, who we all knew was getting traded. So as a whole, if you want to look at this entire trade in the vacuum, you're trading pretty much Kevin Porter Jr. in 5 seconds for Steven Adams, which sounds like a lot. But when KPJ did what he did, you had to get rid of him. And now we have Steven Adams, who I think could be a really big piece of this Rockets team going forward, starting next season, of course. So I like the player, of course, with Udoka. I'm excited to see what happens next year. I'm just praying that he can be healthy, and it's worth it. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the deal. But 3 seconds is, that's where the deal is. Like, all right, is that a lot? But yeah, what do you think about those, Will?
I don't think that we overpaid at all.
I agree.
As a matter of fact, I think that I think you have to look at this trade through the lens of like what it actually is, right? Because if Steven Adams was 110% healthy, we wouldn't have been able to get him for salary filler in 3 seconds. He's worth a lot more than that when Steven Adams, the last time we saw him was a starting caliber big in the NBA. Like, this is somebody who was giving Alperen Sengun some trouble in the past. As Brad touched on, he's probably the best screener in the league. Like, I don't know if there's like a screen ranking, but there's probably not 3 guys I'd rather have setting me a screen than Steven Adams. He's not necessarily the world's best rim protector, but he's solid. Like, he's the probably the prototypical like non-superstar big in the NBA right now. And so that kind of guy is worth more than 3 second-round picks. The reason why I'm a little like pump the brakes on it, though, is I think the fact that we were able to get him for that much and that Memphis was willing to trade him, I am slightly concerned about his health. That is the one thing, right? Because on paper, like you said, if this guy's healthy, perfect backup big, perfect complement to Alperen Sengun. I don't think they would play too much together, but in terms of a big who could come in and kind of shore up the minutes when Alperen Sengun doesn't play, I think he's perfect for that. As Brad touched on, so like I said with the screens, I think that Amin Thompson and Jalen Green, the two downhill guards, are going to benefit a bunch from having a guy who can set them. Just not saying Sengun can't, because Sengun obviously can't. I think Shingun's also a great screener, but just having now we have two guys who can set really really solid screens, help get you down here. We've seen what Steven Adams has done for Russell Westbrook in his career, what he's done for John Morant in his career. So obviously, we like bringing him around Jalen Green and Min Thompson would be great. And then on top of it, he's just a really good guy. Like I think even beyond him, whether he performs, to what we think he can do, this is a Rockets team that's trying to change the culture, trying to change the perception of itself, not just internally, but also externally. And so bringing in somebody like Steven Adams, who's been in the league for a while, I believe he was the one leading the team meetings in Memphis. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm like 85% sure he was the one who was like, all right, when stuff was kind of, getting out of control over there, they was having the quote unquote maturity issues. He was the one who was like, y'all, we got to figure this out. And not saying that I don't think we have, any of those issues anymore in Houston. I think we have a really solid group of guys who are, about basketball now. But just having someone like having that kind of person in your locker room is huge. So I think like from that standpoint, great. I just, like I said, my only reservation is I just don't know if I pulled up his injury. He had an injury that forced him to miss the rest of last year. The 2022-23 season was a knee injury, right? I believe that's why when we played him in March of that season, he didn't play against us, right? Because he was hurt.
He hasn't played since January 2023.
Yeah, he hasn't played since January of last. So it's been a full 365 pretty much since he's last touched a basketball court, right? He hasn't played in a full year, and then he was supposed to come back to start this season. But I believe there was a complication with his rehab or something. Something went wrong with the surgery. It missed another year. Steven Adams is going to be 31 when next season starts. I don't know, especially with knee injuries. This is around that time when those things start to like take away guys' ability to contribute on the court. And even if he does come back, is he going to be able to play the same level? And is this going to be a guy who's going to be in and out the rotation with injury all the time? Because, like I said, knee injuries, that age, especially when they're piling up back to back to back, it's not good. And then the last thing I had to say was just I wanted a center today. I wanted someone who would come in and back up Alperen Sengun today. I think that this roster is capable of making the playing tournament. Someone even making a push once we get there. And I want to give us our best chance of doing that. And I think that does. Jock Landale thought he was gonna be that guy. He's not that guy. Boban is just here for the vibes. There's not another big on this team. I think Jeff Green and Jabari Smith have done as good as possible trying to back up Sengun, but I think Jeff Green, I think he's tired. I mean, he's 37 years old. He probably shouldn't be playing this many minutes, especially out of position like that. And then Jabari Smith is, like I said, as good as he's been, he's still growing into his frame. And he's still young himself, right? You can't necessarily expect him to play out of position like that every single night. You need another body there. And like I said, I think anybody who watched that Pelicans game 2 nights ago, why we need another backup big, right? It's a thing. So, I was hoping that we would maybe try to address the backup big for this season and maybe kind of roll that guy over to next year. I think this trade kind of signals they're probably not going to trade for another big. It wouldn't make sense to me to trade, 3 seconds for your center next year and then trade more seconds for a guy who's only going to be here for 1 year. Like that doesn't make sense. So I think that in terms of trading, they're probably done. They might go out there and maybe try to sign a Bismack Biyombo who's a free agent, or maybe somebody else gets bought out and they go pursue a big that way to kind of temporarily hold the position down until Steven Adams gets there. But that's kind of it. I think that any trade we make, between now and next week, it's probably going to be for a shooter. And I think that might be it. I think we might be done with free agents. I mean, well, we can transition to the next topic. But I don't know, Brad, do you have anything else you want to touch on with Steven Adams?
Yeah, I saw Adam Windhorst was discussing it, and it really does depend on what they do at this upcoming deadline. Because as you mentioned, they do need a backup presence still. They did just get punked by Jonas Valanciunas, so They need a solution for this season if their goal really is to make it into the playoffs. So I don't know what they're going to do with their money, but Adam Windhorst mentioned, you have Steven Adams, who is making $12.5 million, Jock Landale, who's going to be making $8 million unguaranteed, Jeff Green, $9.6 million. Then you got Jay Sean Tate on the team option for $7.1 million. That's around 3.5-ish or 35 million to 40 million that they could use in a trade if they want to bring in a star, along with those Brooklyn picks, which could be enticing with Brooklyn being as bad as they are. So it depends. I'm curious to see, who becomes available in the offseason. Maybe they try to use, some of that salary to get Mikal or maybe another star. But yeah, that could go right into our next topic. These Houston Rockets, it looks like Ime Udoka really, really likes the idea of having Mikal Bridges around this Rockets core in a swap for Jalen Green. Will, do you have that trade by any chance? If not, we can just dive into it.
So yeah, I got you, Brad. So there's two reports that came out yesterday from Evan Sidery. He is covering the NBA for SB Nation. I think this guy is semi-legit, right? He says Mikal Bridges, what'd you say?
He's definitely legit.
Yeah, he's legit. Okay. So Mikal Bridges is the Rockets' dream target. The idea of Mikal coming to the Rockets in a Jalen Green-centered deal would make Ime Udoka and company very happy. Houston has submitted offers to the Nets for Bridges, but he's not available. And then he also made another tweet that says Jalen Green is not viewed internally as a key building block for the Rockets. Houston is open to moving Green in order to acquire a star-level player. So you can kind of connect the dots there that there is alleged reported interest from the Houston Rockets and Mikal Bridges, and maybe not so much interest in Jalen Green. And we've been delaying having a Jalen Green podcast. We want to do that one properly. So we haven't had that podcast just yet. But we can all be objective and honest and say that Jalen Green has had a disappointing season. I mean, I think he's been the biggest disappointment of our season so far. And I think we can be objective and say that I don't think that the Rockets should be giving up on Jalen, right? Like that's kind of where I'm at with it. I think that Jalen Green has been disappointing, but I've been fighting tooth and nail to say that I think you got to get this guy a season and maybe a little bit into next season to you've invested a lot into him. You tanked the whole season for him. You drafted number 2 overall over some really good players, mind you, right? Like Evan Mobley was there, Scotty Barnes was there, Franz Wagner was there. I mean, to a lesser degree, Jalen Suggs was there. There's a lot of really good guys that we didn't draft because we drafted Jalen Green. And so I'm of the opinion that you got to give that guy every possible opportunity to show you who he is. And I mean, he's been kind of maybe showing us who he is recently. So, I not to say that we can sigh of relief, because he's been good for 5 games, but looks like he's turning the corner. And stuff is on the up for him maybe. So yeah, I would keep Jalen for that reason, right? But for me with Mikal, though, it's just one, let me say this. I think a lot of these reports are coming from Brooklyn. I mean, let me start there. I think the Rockets have interest in Mikal Bridges. We know for a fact that they are to a degree interested in Mikal. They were interested in him last trade deadline. It's going to be the same thing here, right? I think what's being embellished is the degree in which we are interested. I don't think that we're so interested in Mikal Bridges that we're willing to, at least I hope not. I hope we're not as interested in trading Jalen Green and all those Nets picks that we own until 2027 back. I just don't think that's I think that's coming from Brooklyn's camp, because I believe there's also a report came out yesterday that Brooklyn declined 2 first-round picks for Dorian Finney-Smith, which if you're looking to blow it up, you're probably if a team offered you 2 first-round picks for Dorian Finney-Smith and you're looking to move him, you take that every time of the day. There's no scenario in which you're saying no to that. So I think Brooklyn is putting out these puff pieces to kind of inflate the value of the guys that they could potentially move at the deadline. So that includes, like I said, if you want Dorian Finney-Smith, the price is 2 first-round picks, right? That's what they're trying to put out there. If you want Mikal Bridges, the Rockets have offered us Jalen Green and all these picks back, and we said no, we want more than that. And so I think that's kind of what they're trying to do here. I don't really think that the Rockets have been that desperate to do that. And if they were, right, and say worst case scenario they are, Brad knows I've said it. I think that we approached this offseason wrong then. If we were going to be so desperate to make the postseason that we would, come into this season knowing that we had 6 guys who were 22 and under, going to be under in our rotation, right? Not that many teams are, winning playoff games with 6 guys 22 and under, right? That's very rare. So you knew that you were getting that. If you wanted a guaranteed playoff spot, there was a point guard that we told no. who would have got you that? James Harden has not missed the playoffs once in his entire career. He's backpacked inferior. Even in his he's declined. He's not in his prime no more. We've seen what he's done. In Brooklyn when KD and Kyrie were out, we saw what he did in Philadelphia when Embiid was in that rotation. This guy can still get you. He can get you a 6 seed with the talent we have in his roster. I think him and Shingo can get you a 6 seed. So if that was your plan, I think you kind of approached it wrong. But yeah, I guess my whole thoughts. I don't know how much I buy it. And yeah, I don't really think that even if it is true, I think that it'll be. I think it's dumb if the Rockets are willing to trade that much for Mikal Bridges. He's, with all due respect, he's not that good. And I think it's dumb if we did offer it. If the Nets said no, I think that'd also be very dumb on their behalf. So I think it's a whole lot of hoopla. But what you think, Brad?
I'll say this about Mikal. He's definitely not that, superstar to get all your picks back along with Jalen Green. We'll say he's not that good. I'm pretty sure he means in reference to what they're trying to give up. Mikal is a very good basketball player, in my opinion. I think he's a perfect fit actually for this Houston Rockets team. When you kind of the defensive abilities, his ability to shoot the three, scoring a lot better now, 22 points per game with Brooklyn. So he is a solid player. Yes, is he a good fit with the Rockets? Yes, he is. But to give up Jalen Green along with every Brooklyn first, I personally can't do that. I'm looking at Brooklyn Nets right now, a team that is just struggling. Yes, they're a few games back or very close to the play-in right now, but they're around 10 games below 500. They can't keep Ben Simmons healthy, and they just don't have a ton of upside. There's no path for them to really get a lot better. These are picks that can be really good. They could have a ton of value. You have a draft class coming up next year with one of the best prospects we've seen in a long time. So I personally can't give up those Brooklyn picks just for Mikal Bridges. That's just personally not what I could do. And when it comes to Jalen Green, Will has mentioned that, he has been struggling this year. Yes, he has been a disappointment. And good for Jalen on this note, these past 5 games, he's probably had the best 5-game stretch since his rookie season. But again, 5-game stretches, what is a 5-game stretch? You need a large sample size of Jalen Green being a really good basketball player. He's just now starting to rebound a lot better. I'll give him that. He had his first 3 10 rebound games consecutively. Ime Udoka said he had those 1v1s with him. He's been talking to him, showing him film. Hey, man, you're standing around. Go get some boards. And he's doing that. So I can't just give up. Again, we're just now seeing this from Jalen Green. Yeah, it's year 3. But it is very early to jump ship on the kid, in my personal opinion. Yes, I get it. I know a lot of people are watching like, nah, I've seen enough of Jalen. I'm sick of him, the inconsistencies. He can't shoot. He's not playing defense. And I hear the frustrations because I was there at a certain point. I was frustrated, but I was never ready to just full on give up on the kid. Because when he's on, the kid's a star. He's a star. I put it on my page. When he's hooping, we haven't seen a kid of his age really just on fire like that. 70 true shooting percentage. When he gets there, he's had 18 games or 17 games in his career so far, where he's had 30 points with over 70 true shooting percentage. Only KD and LeBron have had more. KD had 19, Bron had 18. Right now, Jalen's got 17. So when he's on, he's unstoppable. That's what that is pretty much telling you. He's obviously not those players' caliber, but it's just showing you when he's on fire, you're not gonna stop him. So I hope they can get him to that point. And outside of scoring, if he's not on, he's got to be able to, get the boards, be active on defense, and facilitate well. Those are all things that we've been waiting to see from Jalen. Hopefully, we were hoping this year he will click. It's been a ton of inconsistency. So I can understand why the front office would get impatient and they'd want to make a move when Ime Udoka wants to win now. Again, 6 guys, 22 and under. Hard to make the playoffs in a circumstance like that. But even then, you still have this Rockets team hovering around 500. They're probably above 500 right now if Tari Eason doesn't miss the amount of games that he does. Will, would you probably agree with that? I think you're on mute.
You said they're above 500?
They could be above 500 right now if Tari doesn't miss any games, or if he's not missing as many games. Or closer, at least.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think we could be above 500. I think we for sure have a better record, right? Like I think it's fair to say we're probably a 500 team, with some confidence if Tari Eason is here from the jump. Because I mean, you saw like even when the season first started, right, when we didn't have him, he came back, and I think that's when we went on the street, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah.
I was on mute too, but yeah, no, I would say Tari Eason, the Rockets are 12 and 10 when Tari Eason plays this year. So they're above 500 team under those circumstances. So
I think it's fair to say he's probably the top 3 in impact on this team in terms of when he plays and when he doesn't.
Yeah, no, exactly. So yeah, but as a whole, this Rockets team, they're hovering around 500, probably a little better with Tari playing most of the time. But even then, it was going to be tough for this team to make the playoffs. So if this Rockets team is that, hell bent on making the playoffs, again, I get what Will says about bringing in James Harden. I think it's a little more difficult because, James Harden didn't want no 2+1 deal, something similar that Fred got. So it's kind of easier to move off of Fred in that case. But, from a standpoint of making playoffs at the gate, yeah, I think they probably do make it with James Harden. But, just outside of that, I just don't want them to make any, just decisions that just rush the process. You do have a good young core. I like how they meshed it with Dylan and Fred. And for next season with Steven, I think that is a recipe for success. You have a lot of good veteran, tough guys around a young core with a good coaching staff. They're only going to get a lot better. If you believe in your young core, and Udoka said this, beyond any acquisition they make, the young core is what's going to be most important for them to succeed. He said that the young core's progression is what's most important in this entire process. And you got a good young core 6 right now. If you believe in them, I don't think you need to rush any process at the end of the day, because by maybe not next season, but that year after, this is going to be a really good basketball team. You got 23-year-old Alperen Sengun, who could have messed around and been an all-star this year, probably be an all-star next year. Jabari Smith Jr., who's shown a huge progression in one season. Cam Whitmore, who's showing you he's got that dog in him at 19, and he's going to put the ball in the basket at any cost. You got Tari Eason, again, who I believe is one of the best bench players in the NBA out the gate. And then, of course, you have to see what you have in Jalen Green, who has looked nothing but a star in these past 5 games. Again, it's 5 games. We got to see a larger sample. But I would just remain patient. I'd give it to the end of the year. Go get a backup big, maybe in the buyout market, just because you just got Steven Adams, but definitely try to get some shooting. And then see what you have in the offseason. If you don't make the playoffs, it's not the end of the world. If they become fully healthy again, I believe they can make the play-in. But I'd reassess in the offseason. I wouldn't make any trades right now. Getting rid of Jaylen for Mikal, especially with all those Brooklyn picks, because Brooklyn could be terrible, and we can mess around and get a really good pick out of that. So that's where I stand on the whole thing. Will, what do you think about what I said?
Yeah, I mean, I want to add that the thing that, like, I think those Brooklyn picks are going to be pretty valuable. My whole philosophy with, and I've said this a couple of times, I don't know if I think I've said it on the show before, but my whole philosophy when it comes to making trades of that magnitude, because what you're asking, what is being reported is that we're going to trade Jalen Green and either all or the majority, so probably like 3 of, at minimum, Jalen Green and 3 of the 4 remaining Brooklyn picks, which is 2 picks and 2 swaps, which for Brooklyn is essentially just 4 first-round picks for them, essentially, right? So that's 3 first-round picks plus Jalen Green back to Brooklyn for Mikal Bridges. That's usually the type of trade package that you offer up for a star, or at least like the groundwork of a bona fide star. Obviously, I think like a star will probably cost you a little bit more than that, but like that's usually the general framework is a bunch of picks and a promising young guy or 2, and you go out there and get a star. With all due respect, that's not Mikal Bridges. You know what I'm saying? That's not who he is. He's a really good player. No disrespect to him at all. I think he's an all-star caliber guy. He didn't make it this year, but he's an all-star caliber guy. I think he's a really underqualified number 2 option and an overqualified number 3 option. I think if Mikal Bridges is your 3rd best player, I think that means you have of course, if you build the roster properly, I think you have a really good roster if he's your 3rd best guy. That ain't the type of guy that you cash in on, in my personal opinion, this soon into the rebuild when we're so far away from contention, as Brad touched on. I don't think we're gonna be sniffing a contending level team until 2 years from now, which is not bad. I know some people think that's like that would mean that we're behind schedule. Like, that's, our players are not even, like, Alperen Sengun is not even 21 yet. Like, it's okay that we're not close.
And Will, having a contending team when your youngest best player is 23 is very good. That's really good.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I would say like I'm not that well versed on my NBA history, but I'm pretty sure in the last like 20 years there hasn't been a team that's won a championship with a guy that young. As a matter of fact, I think when KD and the Thunder went to the finals, KD was drafted in 07 and they went in 2012. So he had been in the league since what, like 5 years at that point in time before they got to the finals. So yeah, that's like man, we gotta temper our expectations if you're thinking we're gonna be contending next season or something like that. I think 2 years is honestly on the optimistic side. But yeah, I think when we're this far away from contending, making a trade like that where you're going to be trading away a lot of draft capital and a promising young guy for a player who doesn't even put you over the top or even really put you close to coming over the top. Like you could drop Mikal Bridges on this team right now. We're still, we're not winning no championship. We're not winning a playoff series. So yeah, I guess my philosophy is just keep building slow. You're right. You're right on schedule right now. I think they're a half game out from the 10th seed. Win tonight, I think you might get it. I'm not 100% sure how that works, but yeah, they're not that far. You make another trade at the deadline, bring in some actual like help because this roster needs it. You get Tari Eason back. You get guys healthy, get guys going. Jalen Green looks he's turning a corner. I think this team is very well in the play-in hunt. I know it's kind of sad because we've been losing a lot of games recently, but I think we're definitely still on track to make the play-in tournament. And then next season, the expectation still won't be to win a championship or to win a playoff series. It's more just to continue to develop, lay that foundation. Obviously win a lot more games than we did, this year. But once again, like all those goals, you don't need a Mikal Bridges to accomplish. And so would I take him if the price was fair? Probably. Well, yeah, I would. No, I wouldn't. I would. But I don't think that's what I think Brooklyn's going to want a lot of their draft capital back, and I don't want to give them a lot of their draft capital back. So, yeah, I'm just cool. I'd rather wait till we are closer to contending to start assessing, making trades of that magnitude. And at least that's my take on it.
Yeah, I personally have the same take. Again, you made a good point. That OKC team when they had the rebuild, they made it to the championship in KD's 5th year. Right now, Şengün, Jaylen, 3rd year. 2 years, I think they're in a perfect position to go contend, especially with all the talent that they have. I can't imagine what Jabari is going to be in 2 years, along with all the young guys I've already mentioned in this episode. So I wouldn't do anything to jump the gun. That's just me personally. So yeah, that's why I stay on this podcast. I mentioned in the beginning, Steven's going to be a really good presence for this team. If he's good, maybe they can re-sign him for a good deal going forward. And then, when it comes to Jaylen and Mikal, we got to see more consistency from Jaylen. He's doing good these past 5 games. Got to keep it up. Got to show this. He's really auditioning for his Rockets future, going forward. So he's really got to lock in. So that's where we're going to have to wait and see. But yeah, that's all I got.
That's it for me too. Yeah, so it's going to be interesting. We'll probably be back sometime soon, either talk about the trade deadline or talk about the trade when it happens, because I'm pretty positive we're not done. I think they're going to try to make another move before the deadline. I think they're going to try to get a playable body. I'll be honest, I'll be disappointed if we don't. If the only move we make this season is to position ourselves for the future. And like I said, I want to be excited about Steven Adams, man, but I just don't know what level. I don't know what version of Steven Adams we're going to get when he comes back. So I kind of temper my expectations with that one. But like I said, there should be another trade. Hopefully, and I don't think we will, but hopefully we won't be talking about a Jalen Green trade next time you see us. So we appreciate y'all for listening. And with that, I think we're good.
See y'all next episode.